Billy Edwards continues to be huge for the Terps.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you for making us part of your day. And today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Go to 5hourenergy.com and use promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. Billy Edwards continues to be huge for the Maryland Terrapins and continues to play really good football and leads Maryland to a huge win against the Virginia Cavaliers. 27-13, Maryland wins a much needed, I said it was a must-win game, and I really believe still that it was a must-win game. After coming off that loss to Michigan State, if we had dropped another one to UVA, this season may be in the dumps, to be completely honest. It may be a lost season, and things would definitely not be looking good because this is the part of the schedule where we're supposed to control. And we have a bunch of winning football, a bunch of winnable football games coming up on our schedule. And these first 6 games were supposed to be very winnable. So beating Virginia on the road after losing to Michigan State at home was a huge test for the Maryland Terrapins, and it really shows how we battled through some adversity. We lost a bad one to Michigan State. Happens, and you bounce back and you beat Virginia by 14 points in a game where Virginia, I think, ended up being favored in at the end. And I think the biggest reason that Maryland football has looked pretty good so far, and the reason we should be 3-0, we're technically not 3-0, but we should be 3-0. You can't tell me we should have lost that game to Michigan State. We had so many opportunities to win that game, but Michigan State did not win that game. Maryland lost that game. And the reason we should be 3-0, but the reasons that we are 2-1 and the reasons that we look like a pretty good football team still, and that there hasn't been much drop-off, I feel like, since last year, I think the biggest reason to me is Billy Edwards. I can't give him enough credit because he has been so solid for the Maryland Terrapins. Even in the loss to Michigan State, still he has been a very good football player, and he has exceeded my expectations. He's gone past what I expected of Billy Edwards. I didn't think he was going to be this good, to be completely honest. I didn't even think he was going to be the starter. I was team MJ Morris for a while. I really believed that MJ Morris was going to be the starter, and that's how I thought it was going to go down. But Billy Edwards has sat here. He has really played well. He has earned his time, and he's made the most of it. Because I see a guy that looks confident out there, looks like he knows how to run the offense, and looks like he's improved over the last couple of years from where he was. At first, I was like, he's too raw. He doesn't make enough throws. He doesn't complete a high enough percentage of his passes, and I just didn't see it. And now I see it through a sample size of 3 games where we've played a decent amount. I feel like I have seen a guy that looks pretty good in Billy Edwards. Is there places where he can get better? Yes. He missed a couple deep balls again. He did that against Michigan State too. There were some passes he definitely probably wanted back that he probably could have made. But at the end of the day, he's making a lot of throws. He's not turning over the ball. And when you put those things together, and he's completing a pretty high percentage of his throws as well, and when you put those things together, you say he's doing a pretty good job overall, and he's really separating himself as one of our better players on the team so far this year. Like, he hasn't held us back at all. He was nowhere near the reason we lost to Michigan State. He's probably why we were in the game to Michigan State. But I think what Billy Edwards is doing was really good, was really impressive against Virginia. I saw him go 28 of 43 against UVA for 263 yards. Very solid. And he started the game kind of missed a couple throws here, missed a couple throws there where I thought there were opportunities to make plays, and he didn't. And he came back and he made some big-time throws down the stretch. I remember there was a throw to Caden Prather over the top of the defense where I was like, that's a really good throw. There's this rapport he has with Ty Felton, which was one of my concerns going into the season. I was like, our strength is on the outside in that receiver room with Ty and Prather. How good can Billy Edwards get those guys the ball? And clearly, he's been able to do that at a really high level because right now, Ty Felton is arguably like the best receiver out there in the entire country. I said it last week, but he continues to put up stats. Another huge game for Ty Felton with 9 receptions and 117 yards and a touchdown. And Billy Edwards continues to finds him over and over again, whether it's over the middle, whether it's over the top, whether it's on the sideline. They have a really good connection. That's really important because he's getting the ball to our playmakers. And so I thought Billy Edwards looked really good and has looked really good through 3 games for the Terps. Against Michigan State, had a good game as well, which we already talked about a good amount, but completed 76% of his throws, 2 touchdowns. UConn, obviously, it's UConn, can't put too much into it, but 311 yards, 74 completion percentage, 2 touchdowns. Like, he's doing exactly what we want. And he's also he did it with his legs a little bit, had a really big 13-yard run against UVA. He's doing it all right now for the Maryland Terrapins. And I think that that's really important for a guy that we didn't know going into the season how good he was going to be, what type of player he was going to be. We just weren't sure. So for him to be playing like this, I feel like is really a testament to not only Billy Edwards, but to Coach Locksley. He said it. This offense is quarterback proof. And that means that you can plug in any quarterback, any college quarterback, no matter their skill set, and they're going to set you up to be successful. That's what he means when he says that it's quarterback proof. And so far, Coach Locksley has proven that the system is quarterback proof. And Billy Edwards has proven that point just by how he's playing out there. And I think he's leading us to a place where we can continue to be the same type of team that we have been under Talia. Now, the real question is, can he take another step? I know he's been good this year, but can he be great? I can't say he's been great yet, but can he take another step? I think Talia was always good, but he never took the step where we were able to complete that upset win against Michigan, or he was able to stay in the game at Ohio State, and maybe he never won that signature type of game. And Billy Edwards, so far, I'm not saying he's able to do that, but you wonder if he can. And I think one of the more important things is he's not turning over the ball. Again, against UVA, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Against Michigan State, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. UConn, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So right now in the season, 6 touchdowns, 1 interceptions, completing 71% of his throws for 827 yards with an average of 8 yards per throw. In 2023, in the times that he was able to play, the times that he got in, he went 10 of 30, completing 33% of his threw for 128 yards with an average of 4.3. That improvement is insane. 2022, where he got a couple of games to be a starter because Talia was out, 28 of 46, so 60% of his throws for 308 yards. That's pretty cool improvement by Billy Edwards when you look at it. And now this year he's a quarterback rating of 155.1. And if you remember, going into this week, he was top 10 on PFF's grading system. And my thing is, he's not only making some of these normal plays that we want him to expect him to make, he's making some plays over the top. Like I said, the one to Caden Prather, he's made a multiple plays to Ty Felton over the top and other guys as well. And I didn't know he was going to be able to do that. There was a couple big throws to Dylan Wade in that game that I thought was pretty big. So I didn't know he was going to be able to make some of these bigger time throws, but I think those are important in us taking a step as an offense. And obviously what he provides rushing the football is a completely different thing that's also really special. So I'm really liking what I'm seeing from Billy Edwards, and I'll admit I was wrong. He's a lot better than I thought. He's exceeded our expectations, and he's the reason that we have been solid this year and that we should be 3-0, even though we let him down against Michigan State. But he's the reason that we continue to have such stable play and that we looked – I think he's the biggest reason why we looked good against the Virginia Cavaliers, and he's the biggest reason why, in my opinion, that we won that game 27-17. to 13. But he was definitely not the only reason we won that game. The defense finally stepped up after getting absolutely trashed by Michigan State. I will talk about how the defense was able to step up after this ad from 5-Hour Energy. 5-Hour Energy fixes tired fast. Whether you have a long list to do for work or a list of DIY products to tackle at home, take a 5-Hour Energy shot so you can check everything off your list. If you're like me, you'll always have large lists of projects for the home. When you get your supplies for the project, do not forget the most essential supply, which is a 5-Hour Energy spot. Grab a 5-Hour Energy shot to stay alert, to watch all your favorite games, or if you stayed up late to see that intense overtime game, take a 5-Hour Energy shot in the morning so you can start your day. With zero sugar and convenient portable sizes, it's a perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. That's 5-Hour Energy website and has flavors galore like watermelon, tropical burst, grape berry, and more. And there's a flavor for everyone. Try them all. On the site, you have the option to build your own 12-pack or 24-pack. You choose a flavor and it's delivered right to your door. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, and get some 5-Hour Energy product today, you can use promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on the order. It cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders, so go to 5hourenergy.com today. Maryland defense stepped up against Virginia, and I think that's the next biggest reason why we won that game. My prediction was a little bit off for this game. I did think Maryland was going to win, but I thought that Virginia was going to be able to do some things, throwing the football a little bit more. But to be honest, Virginia was able to do a decent amount. I think a lot of it was their quarterback turned over the ball too much, but credit to the Maryland defense for that. I think that it's a different game if it doesn't throw those 2 interceptions. They were able to pass the ball a little bit, but I still really liked the improvement I saw from Maryland's defense. And I said after the Michigan State game, I said, you better look good against Virginia. And I said, there's probably no other way they look worse, right? Because I was thinking the only way probably is to get better. And I was like, you hit rock bottom, the only way is to get better. And so I think that it looked pretty good, but it's definitely a little bit misleading that we only gave up 14 points or 13 points. But I think we looked good, and I think we looked especially good in the second half. But I do think that when you look at it, they did do some things against us that wasn't awesome. The Virginia was able to run the ball at a decent spot. They averaged 4.9 yards per carry against us. But I did like some of the pass rush I saw. Quayshawn Fuller did have a really good sack, had a really good game with 5 tackles overall. I'm telling you, if we get that guy going, I think he's one of the more talented players on our team. I think he's still just figuring it out. But I saw a guy that looked really good. Jordan Phillips and Tommy King-Basote both got pressure on the quarterback, even though they didn't get home. So our defensive line looked pretty decent. I think that I want us to play a little bit better against the run, but I did think they looked pretty solid overall. And I thought our linebackers played a huge part of the game. I thought that Caleb Wheatland, I thought, had a really good game. He had half tackle for loss and also had 5 tackles. And I think the youngster Michael Harris, who I talked about before the season, who's a guy that is going to be a really important part of this defense, linebacker depth. Is going to be a starter on our defense for the next couple of years after Ruben Hippolyte is gone. He looked good. He had a good amount of tackles. He's really talented. All he had to do was really add some muscle, and I knew he was going to be a good player. So I thought that they played pretty well overall in the linebacker unit. They did definitely some good things. Ruben Hippolyte also got some pressure along with Kellen Wyatt and Wheatland. Donald Brown also too had a fumble recovery. So I think that one of the more important things is the linebacker room has improved. Against UConn definitely looked shaky, but probably the most important thing to me was the Maryland corner room, after being horrible against Michigan State, or I'll say the secondary, not just the corner room, after being terrible against Michigan State, I can't harp on it enough. They were just awful. Couldn't find the best players to play. And then Aiden Childs absolutely torched us for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, even though he didn't even look that awesome to me. He made some good throws, but he also made some horrible ones. But it looked a lot better, I think. And even though it didn't start off well, I give a lot of props to that room because when you look at it, Virginia actually started off pretty decently. Colin Drea was kind of airing it out, and he was able to throw the ball at a good amount, 13 of 19 for 189 in the first half. But in the second half, we were able to really shut them down, and it's a reason they couldn't really score on us in the second half. Jalen Husky was actually Maryland's. I'm reading an article on the SB Nation page, and Jalen Husky was actually the highest rated player according to PFF, and had an interception and only allowed 1 reception for 4 yards according to PFF. So Jalen Husky, I thought that Jalen Husky was weird against Michigan State. He gave up some plays for sure, but he also made some plays. So I think Jalen Husky, he had that interception against Michigan State, had the interception against Virginia. He looks good. I think he looked really good against Virginia, and it's really great to see improvement on the defense in that secondary because I'm telling you, I thought that Anthony Collinger was going to be able to throw the ball over us in the second half. Kind of did a little bit, but whatever adjustments we made, I'm not going to act like I know exactly what they did out there, but whatever adjustments the Terrapins made, it worked. It benefited them in the second half on the corner room. And then the safety unit, Dante Trader looked really good all over the field, led the team with 11 tackles, also had an interception and a pass breakup. So Maryland secondary, there's still plenty of improvements to be made. We have Villanova next week, so maybe I'm not too concerned about that, but it was much better than it was against Michigan State. Also, Brandon Jacobs played a lot more, and which I think makes sense. Brandon Jacobs is so talented. Like, get him out there at safety, move Glendon Miller up to the star position. I think that makes a lot of sense. But I think overall, the Terps defense, I mean, you allowed 13 points. You forced a bunch of turnovers too. Again, I think we're number 1 in interceptions or something like that through the first 3 weeks. I think I saw on their Instagram. So I think we're doing what we should be doing. And I think that in terms of turning over the ball, it was just like this last year. For some reason, we start off the year so hot turning teams over, but that's always due kind of for regression. So you kind of got to just take that with a grain of salt a little bit because turnovers, yeah, they're nice, but they kind of can drop back a little bit, and that's what happened last year. And later on, when we play better teams, we're going to turn over the ball less. So just something to think about. But I do think the defense was a lot better. I think that all 3 levels played decent level. I saw defensive line play decent. Still improvements to be made. Linebacker room, same thing. Secondary, same thing. And so overall, I think defense was better. I do think the 13 points was a little misleading. I don't think they were that good, but I do think that they're on track to continue to improve and get better, which is going to be huge for the Maryland Terrapins overall. Who are my offensive, defensive, and overall MVP for the game? I'll tell you about that after this ad from FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get 3 weeks free trial on NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. I know some of you guys are like me and want to watch every NFL game and not just 1 or 2. So make sure you guys do that to be able to get NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime, as well as you can do your normal betting. Like tonight, there's Monday Night Football. I know a lot of you guys are interested in. If you want to bet the Eagles to win, or if you want to bet the Commanders, if you're a DC sports fan, you want to bet the Commanders next week, you can do that as well. If you want to bet the Falcons to beat the Eagles tonight, you can do that. So just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sports book. So my MVPs for this game, I feel like they're getting a bit repetitive, but when guys are playing at a high level, I can't try and maneuver my way through it. These are my guys that I think played their best against Virginia. I'll start with defensive MVP. How about Dante Trader Jr. having a really good game? Had 11 total tackles, had five solos, six assisted tackles, which is a lot of tackles. 11 tackles for Dante Trader, and he's the leader of our secondary, and he's one of the guys that we feel confident about back there in a group that's really inexperienced, and he continues to step up. He also had an interception again. So Dante in his last season is looking good, looks like a player, and I know that he's looking to go to the NFL next year and be able to do that. So I think this was a huge game, and he also had a pass breakup. So I'm watching him just be all over the field, making tackles, coverage, pass breakups. It's pretty big. The turnover meant a lot in a game against Virginia. That was closer than the scoreboard looks. It's still an interesting score. It felt like there was more offense than there actually was for Virginia. But Dante Trader was one of the reasons why it felt like that, because he was able to force an interception. And then also it's cool to see Brandon Jacobs playing out there more. Michael Harris also. There's a Quayshawn Fuller had a sack, so there's a couple different routes you could go, but I thought Dante had the best game overall. Offensive MVP, I have a couple different guys. Nolan Ray I really liked, but he didn't ultimately be my choice. Nolan Ray's kind of overtaking Roman Hemby for running back one a little bit. They both got equal amount of carries, which is actually kind of not what you would expect at this point. The fact that Nolan and Hemby are getting equal amount of carries. So it seems like as Nolan's carries go up, it seemed like Roman Hemby's carries go down. So that's something definitely to look out for, something that could mean something later on. I'm not saying that he's completely overtaken him, but Nolan Ray had 10 carries for 53 yards, just very solid running, 5.3 average. Colby McDonald, too, averaged 5.5 yards per carry with his 6 carries. So Roman Hemby only averaged 3.3. So I don't want to say it's all in Roman Hemby, but I think that he's got to pick it up a little bit, or you're just going to look at the pure numbers and be like, you got to play Nolan and Colby. But that's not; those aren't my MVPs. But we'll talk about the running back room more tomorrow. My MVP, my offensive MVP is Ty Felton. Like, I can't give it to anybody else. Caden Prather had some good plays, sure. Dylan Wade had a couple good catches. Octavian Smith too. But Ty had another 117 yards, 9 receptions, and a touchdown, averaging 13 yards. His third straight 100-yard game. He is actually just going crazy. I didn't see this coming. He's putting himself in position to go like first 3 rounds of the NFL draft, maybe first 2 rounds, and I don't see why not. He's got all you want. He's our best playmaker. He's our best player right now overall. He's our best player, and I thought he would make a jump, and I thought he would be really good, but I didn't think he'd be this good, and I don't think anybody would. But what he's doing is really cool. But my overall MVP is Billy Edwards. I think Billy Edwards, yeah, Ty Felton's probably the better player, but Billy Edwards, what he's doing, just leading this football team, having the football team on his back, getting these guys to rally towards him, I think is really cool. So Billy Edwards is my overall MVP. Again, 28 of 43, 263 yards, 2 touchdowns, really solid against Virginia team. And there's still spots to get better. It's not as much about his play. Yeah, his play's been good. It's just how he's been able to take over this role, and it's been a pretty seamless transition. And he's been able to find guys like Ty Felton, like Caden Prather. And so I really do like what Billy Edwards has brought to the team, and I do think that he's really flourished in that quarterback role. So those are my 3 MVPs: Dante Trader defensive, Ty Felton offensive. You probably could argue Ty overall. Maybe you want to say Nolan Ray gets a shout for just being solid, but I don't think he put up enough of a performance to be an MVP. You could have maybe defense, Quayshawn Fuller maybe, but I do think Billy and Ty, I think second week in a row that they won overall in offensive. So I'm waiting for somebody else to do it, but I'm not going to lie to you and try and pick somebody else when it's these guys are winning it. These guys are clearly our best players right now. That's all we have for today. Thank you for listening to Locked on Terps. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you for listening to Locked on Terps.